I try to be very careful when I communicate or express my free will, my spirit, um, because of the way that others experience who they are, which is a different journey. I validate all journeys. It's like mirrors, the hall of mirrors, right? Different aspects of the same creation. That's what drives biodiversity. That's, when I was a child, that was the first place I ran to, is go be with a goddess. Heck yeah. Feel the spirit out of nature. Yeah. Because you have spirit in you with the light that you are, which is love that you are, because you're on fire. Right? So when you're on fire and you have love in your heart and it's on fire, that love, that light is on fire. That's your spirit. Okay? So I was listening a few minutes ago, and this sort of ties into when I just decided it came from outside to come in here into this room. And I'm reminding myself, I'm finding myself spending more time inside of a deadwood house than where I normally hang out, which is living in the trees, swimming in the ocean, always being in either the ocean, on the beach, or in the actual trees. Right? It's the first thing I did when I was a child. Because you love that energy. You love being in the Garden of Eden. That's really what it is. I live in the Garden of Eden. Those are the rules we live and create together. So this gentleman whose name was, I can't remember the video, but it was like something to deal with the soul. And a gentleman was talking about what he talked about having pre-memories. And he was describing how he felt like before he came in here, it was like, as I've described it, going down a fire pole in levels. And we're talking about levels of consciousness, or if you will, levels of awareness. So you have like what's called a frame of reference. Like when I was a child, he was describing exactly the same thing that I was experiencing, which meant that you realize the expanse. In other words, the rest of the universe, if you could think of it as consciousness, which is living energy that's aware of itself, and it's aware of what love is, because that's what you're aware of. That's like infinite consciousness, and because you're experiencing what love is. So you know everything else that is above you, from the center point that is within you, which is the center point of a sphere, where you're in perfect harmony and balance between the poles, means that you know how to balance your rhythm and your music, your rhythm, going with the flow. So there's a musician. The spirit is a musician that rides the waves. And the purity of the heart is the purity of the light, which is the purity of the love that you feel in your own heart, that you share with others naturally without even having to think about it, because that's how deeply you feel. It's a feeling. Okay? What you feel magnetically. How deeply do you feel? You know, when I was a child growing up, that's sort of how we measured each other. It's how deep do you feel? How deep does your love? Does your love grow or go? And it's infinite. It's like saying he mentioned this, and I've mentioned this myself, and it's true. There are no words. There is no language that makes it possible to describe energy, how much that energy is represented by, that can be compressed into such a small amount of time as you're taking the time to speak it, because you can't do it. Because the amount of what all of that is represented by everything that is out there that is possible to experience is so vast, just in energy alone. There's no way that you can compress that down, okay, and then expand it in the way in which all of that is happening. So there's no language that can do that. There's no language that can define infinite love. Other than to go experience everything there is to experience, that is possible to experience, with infinite creative imagination that is on fire. Because the energy that's driving it as the engine is what love is. That's the truth of it. So when he was describing how he felt like his consciousness was so vast because of what he was aware of, was so vast because of how much love is actually out there to experience in spirit. Like, you go wherever you want to go. You're free to go wherever you want to go. Like, there are no boundaries. You're everywhere. Wherever love is in living spirit, we are. And then all of a sudden, when you're born, it's like a vice. He didn't use the word vice, but that's the word that I use. It's like somebody cranked the vice down on the layers, okay, to where it's like, whoa. So the immediate reaction state in me as a child is get it up, get it up, get it up, which means expand your consciousness, which is to raise the vibration, right? But a little bit of twist in this that I've described in the past is when I'm experiencing that, just as I've described how I go through different areas, even just down the road, you're experiencing waves that represent, if you want to think of thought patterns that you know that aren't yours, that are carried on those waves, like microwave waves, like they're towers, they're voice to skull shit. Okay? And of course, I'm picking up on this as a child because remember, when you're running pure light through your heart like a purifier, then you're decontaminating anything that is less than that. And I didn't realize it till later. It's like clearing a debris field of DNA as a result of wars or fractals that have gone dark as a result of the fact they're no longer experiencing any love anymore. So you realize that the waves are out of tune. They're completely distorted. You're not experiencing peace, love, harmony everywhere you go with the waves that your antenna is picking up. You're actually picking up all the distortions that are being experienced by all the other software systems that are running with the people that are running those software, with that software. That's what it is. That's why when I knew as a child, it's not that I have the resistance to experience the expansion of how much light is actually out there, of beings that represent souls and spirit that are experiencing what love is. Okay? It's the fact that you have a reference of that, of where you come from. That's what it means to come all the way down the fire pole, because you realize how much energy is represented by all that. So you came down the fire pole. Now you're in low density. Wow, God, I can't stand this density. Which is why, as a child, I'm doing everything I can to spin back up and go home. Even though home is in your heart, because that's where your soul is. So you know that you're, wherever you are, the center point of the universe from which love creates one, which is all creation, which means you're one with all creation because you're experiencing the one. You're experiencing the pure love vibration in your own heart. That's what it means to be a purifier. That's what a pure heart is. Right? So when you're experiencing that as a child, and then everything else that you're experiencing in a waveform that is distorted or isn't what love is, your antenna picks it right up. So you realize that wherever you are, you're going to experience that through me with my antenna. So anything that is less than what love is that I'm experiencing here is not what I am. It's the waves that are traveling through while I'm here. So I realize that's not me, that's them. Wherever that wave is coming from. Could be coming from a tower, could be 1,000 people that are in our community that are all experiencing the low vibration of fear because they're watching the TV, which is telling them that in 4 days a tornado is going to come through the area and wipe them all out. They believe it, so they use their energy to make it happen. Because somebody's up there on a TV screen putting fake data and saying this is what's going to happen to you. You believe it, so you make it happen because you will attract what you fear. Okay? The same way that you will attract what you love. So when you're a love energy being, which is a powerful magnet, which is powerful light, which is purifying the light, you will attract more light. Which simply means that other energetic beings that are aware of themselves will probably want to be around your energy because they realize that love does no harm. And you realize when you're around other like beings that are experiencing what love is, and you're all on fire, then imagine what that much fire that are that creative, that are on fire to be creative, can do together. So those are the worlds we live in. Right? So this is why when I was a child, I'm not supposed to be experiencing this. I'm not supposed to be experiencing that. I'm not supposed to be experiencing that. And the checks box just goes. Doesn't matter where you are. You are automatically aware of what isn't love and what is love. Or if you will, when you're the one, you know everything that isn't the one. So you're measuring the field. mapping the field based on the frequencies that you're experiencing wherever you go, which is the density of the consciousness, which is the electrical density of the consciousness. So now we're back to the resistance game. So as this ties directly into what we call religion, religion means go back, means religion. Or what is a legion? A Roman legion? Who uses the word legion? Where do you find that most? In Roman culture, legions. Then you can get into demon legions. D-mon, D-wave mon. Demons. I figure most people know what a demon is, right? So because I was indoctrinated with the time that I grew up with, my mother and my father wanted me to go to Sunday school. So I was introduced to the Holy Bible, right? Both the Old and the New Testament, which was a Methodist church. Although my parents took me back and forth between Presbyterian, Protestant, Methodist churches. So I began reading the New Testament, obviously. And in Sunday school, when I was a child and I began to realize who this man Jesus was, the first response that I had internally was I thought, this guy isn't any different than what I am. I'm doing the same thing he is. Right? So I thought, well, he's telling everybody that in order for him to be able to find something else or to meet his Father, as if that's something external to him. Okay, even though there is a lot of words that I can pick out in any Bible, and it is true. Okay, there are references, for example, to the pineal gland. There are references to codes, Hebrews 1:11, for example. Okay, 1:11, that's 3. So there is a mathematical code there. But there are certain words like love your brothers and sisters, be what love is. Right? So you do find love in there a lot. Love and spirit. What is the Holy Spirit? So if you are a living spirit, then you know you have the Spirit in you, same as he does in him. So if you know you have living spirit, which is holy, known as the holy people, then that living spirit is in living light. Okay? Photons, if you will. So you know that you have light within you, which means you know that you have love within you, which means you know you have a living spirit that is in that light within you. That means that you have a soul connection to the source from which it all comes, which is what love is. So it's within you. It's not outside of you. Which means you're experiencing a God within you. Okay? So when you are experiencing what love is, you're experiencing God. Or if you will, now we're going to go to the other side. Because you got to know that if I'm a God, right? You think I don't want to be with a girl, which would be called a goddess? Now let's say that her and I decided, you know what? Let's go be for it. You want to be together forever? You want to be together forever? Because everything that you are, I want to be. I want to experience what it's like to be everything that you are, which is the female. And you're the birth giver. And she says, well, I want to be everything you are because you're the seed side of the equation. So imagine what happens if you and I decide to mate our souls so that you and I are never, ever separated, ever, forever. And let's close this door behind us so that we don't ever have to struggle over any power, so that we are the source of real power, which is real light, which is living light, which is living energy, which is love that goes on forever. That's the one. That's what it's like to experience being one with all creation. Now you're giving love to all creation. You're the source from which it comes. And you know that. And there's no fooling that. You either know that because you experience that because you feel that. That's how deeply you feel about everything that is in creation. Because everything that you experience that isn't what love is, that's how sensitive you are. That's why I cried so much my entire life. There probably isn't a day go by that I don't have some tears that I shed when I become aware of somebody who suffered. And it doesn't have to be a human. It could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could even be a lizard. Anything that I see that is injured and struggling. In other words, it was doing what it was doing. Now it isn't able to do what it was designed to do. because now something happened to it that caused it to go down. Now it's losing energy, right? So we don't like to see anything losing any energy, no matter what it is in creation, because now I'm experiencing the loss in me, which is a loss in it, which is a loss of living light. So now you begin to realize this is a measurement of your own learning, which is your own pathway, which is self-directed, because that's the mirror. You're learning in your mirror. What best serves you, what doesn't best serve you. Best relationships to have, what relationships don't work, because you're on a pathway, a spiritual pathway of learning. So now you begin to realize you're not alone. So who and what method are we using to learn through? So this is where it gets sort of where the road gets sort of crooked. Not really crooked, but when you throw together everything that they throw at us in terms of programming, reprogramming, memory wipes, and all the rest of it, because now the consciousness is experiencing an altered state from what it was before, and if it isn't aware of what's causing it at the time to know the difference, you can't make a self-correction. And the next thing you know, you don't remember what you were to begin with, because that's what they do. So when you're still experiencing what love is in your heart, you know that you have a soul connection with your spirit that is guiding you. So when I was going through the Sunday school bit with the 10 Commandments and all the rest of that, you can naturally identify with, one, what love is, what it means to have a living spirit within you that is guiding you, so that the course that you're taking is one in which you are living in love and service to others. Because if there's a God or a goddess within you, it would seem natural that that would be the byproduct of your energy as a result of what we do with our energy to experience the future, from which love is what makes it happen. So by the time I was about 18, 19 years of age, and having gone around a few different Christian communities, what happens is over time I start letting go of all that, right? And it's like you begin to realize that it's programming, even though there is some truth that is within it. But what you begin to realize, particularly if you scan the history of the Anunnaki and the Draco, and who actually compiled all this stuff, why they compiled it and why they presented it, because they're all salesmen. They're selling information. So they put all this information in all their books. And then if you're a child and you don't know any better, and then you got parents that are putting you in these schools, no different than an elementary school, and now you're going to a church, which is another school, it's all programming. And the whole idea is to reverse flow, which means that the power index is outside of you, which means whatever your conception of God is, it's not within you. It's outside of you. So it's as if you've got to go through something else that's not within you in order to get where you believe that you're going, but you're not ever going to get there believing that's the way that it works. That's called an inside-out job. Now you're on the outside looking in, but you don't realize it's actually within you, not on the outside, because that's a holographic projection. So they flip the mind in reverse. And that's reverse flow. So they bought into it. As the old saying goes, during the Battle of Midway, they took the bait, Admiral, and that's what it is. They lay it out there, carrot and the stick. You'll be rewarded later while we control you. In the meantime, just like a guy was saying who wrote a book about this stuff, that you I think it was Alan Watts, you spend all your life as a battery slave for them, which means everything that they throw at us is meant to lower your vibration, poison us, poison the air, poison the food, poison the water. That all reduces down to exposure, which is contamination. So somebody's got to come along with a decon. You know, decontamination, that's a purifier. That's a lot of fire. Now it's going to burn off all the contamination as a result of everything that everybody's been exposed to. that was mutating their DNA. Now you don't remember who you are. And that's the whole point of it. So they go after the real gods and goddesses and Mother God. When you're androgynous, that's what you experience. That means you're married. That's called a marriage in heaven, a match made in heaven. That's a mated chip. That's a high-speed accelerator. That's a high-speed tetrahedron. Brrr. So it means that those that are polarity integrators have major transmutation jobs. Because it's like being the ultimate sponge. Because so many things are happening simultaneously on a multidimensional level, right? Between densities and dimensions, if you will, 15D, just as one example. Because so much stuff is happening. So when you're experiencing fractals being lost as a result of one race that's going to war against another, it's not like you can't be aware of it within that template. Because if you are what love is, which means you are what love is as being the one, and you're associated with everything else that is what the love is, with the one, that you're experiencing love wherever you go, and then all of a sudden when you experience something that isn't what love is, now you're experiencing something that is less than what you are. That means wherever you go, in the entire multiverse, throughout the entire creation, if you're ever experiencing anything less than what love is, you'll experience and know the difference between what it is and what you are, which isn't. That's the gift of knowing you're the one. It's not an either or proposition. It's a vibration. Love is a vibration. It's the most powerful energy I know. It changes everything. It transforms everything we touch. Because now they experience that energy is real. Because the vibration is real. So they feel the vibration. And that's the important point. They feel it in their heart and their soul. Or if you will, they feel it. They feel the energy. It's there, and it's as real as it gets because the light is living light and living spirit with a soul. So I thought that I would share that because this is, because I observe, there's a lot of places I go just to see what people are saying, how they're commenting, how awake are they letting go, how much of the programming they're actually letting go. And I realized that in the Christian community, the Orthodox Christian community, those that have all these different names and labels for, it's an alphabet soup, right? From Episcopalians to Methodists to Protestants to Presbyterians to Catholics, it goes on and on and on. It's like I got a different brand here. It's like a different corporate brand. I got a different church with a label on it, and this is how we design the building. We go on there, and these are our rituals. This is what we do, right? So when I grew up as a child, it was always measured because we noticed this, at least amongst the other people that I was with, because I was awake at 4 years of age. So I knew that I had a roadmap in my back pocket for the mission that I was supposed to do. So I had to be very careful about the things that I say, the things that I do, the places that I go, because it's booby-trapped everywhere. So it would very much be like a special forces guy that jumps down in a parachute doing recon, but he's a lone wolf, right? And it's much like a scout ship, right? If you want to think of Star Wars or something like that, or Starfleet Federation, think of a scout ship. Just like my father ran a scout ship with the U.S. Navy. He was I believe his first duty orders were with the Yorktown, the one that was sunk at Midway. But it was going out of Norfolk, Virginia, and my dad was at home when it was leaving. But as I remember it, he was assigned to an SB squadron, which I believe would have been a Dauntless built by Douglas Aircraft, which ended up becoming McDonnell Douglas out of Long Beach, which was built in all the Vietnam, the F-4 Phantom for one. But the point is that he was flying a scout ship. So they were scouting. So that means that when you're scouting, you're up there with him, because I remember he told me one time, I'll share this with you. He was stationed at Guadalcanal in late 41 and early 42. And Guadalcanal was a line in the sand with Admiral Bull Halsey, right? Okay, well, Chester Nimitz. All my dad's orders were directly signed by Admiral Chester Nimitz, which was Pacific Command, okay? And so my father, a lot of Navy pilots were what they called detached and become land-based. So my dad came off the Swanee, was detached, which was at the time Squadron Fighting 27. Fighting 27 became land-based. Those pilots that were part of that group, air group, were there at Guadalcanal with other Leathernecks, which is the Marine Corps. And of course, later on, the U.S. Army showed up, right? But my dad was flying scout planes, and I believe he was flying an F-6F Grumman, which was, as I remember it, he had 650 caliber machine guns, 4 or 6, I can't remember. I used to know. But nevertheless, there was only 6 of them, 6 of his buddies. And they were scouting, okay? Because the Japanese were wanting to take this island back, right? And so they were hitting all the installations there because the Americans landed there, right? To knock that all out, and particularly the airfields. My dad was stationed at the East Airfield, for anybody that's interested that ever sees this, which is known as the East Airstrip. So here you have 6 guys that are up in airplanes scouting, right? Hey, what's out here? Hey, what's out here? But they know what they're looking for is to see if there's any enemy, what are known as bandits. Bands, wave bands, low vibe units. And so they came across 36, what were known as Zeeks, built by Mitsubishi. There was 36 of them. So the orders were to break them up. What's known as break them up. Take out as many as you can, right? So that's what a scout does, just like an Indian scout. You know, the U.S. Cavalry was Indian scouts. So how does that work? Well, if you're a love energy being, it means that you don't fear the future because you know there's always going to be a future with what love is. So fear becomes the lie because you know that love is never going to die. That's eternal energy, and you know that because you experience it through your heart and your soul. So you know that you may lose this, but you're not going to lose your true self-identity. Because you know that you came down from way up, came all the way down the fire pole. So you know where home is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have experienced being at this level of density and with people trying to kill you. A spiritual war is an energy war over control of your energy, which is your consciousness. It's your soul, your spirit. Consume the essence of who you are. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought, how could anybody not know that when they're a child? If you have a living spirit in you as a child, you got to know that you're on a battlefield, right? The spirit knows. The spirit knows. The spirit is the one protecting and guiding the soul. When you know that as a small age, you know that you better stay in your heart. That's your power plant. See? So when I was a child, it wasn't about making weapons and building a fortress around where I'm living. I always knew the heart is the power plant. This is how you fight those wars. This is energy against energy. These are energy wars. So you know the most powerful energy that you can pull is with your magnet, and that's through your heart. Your heart and your soul. Absolutely. Those are known as heart warriors. Those are purifiers. Okay? Those are fearless spirits that experience what love is and go on forever, and they know that. So that means we're working for the one. The allied forces of mankind. Absolutely. We're all one. So we know who we are. We know what side we're on. And so we know where our home is. It's always wherever love is. Because that's who we are. We are what love is. Anyway, for my heart goes out to all you, every last one of you, every last living spirit, everybody that is here on this planet. Because, you know, the scope of this takes nearly forever to describe it to everybody that experienced it here in all the ways in which they did. based on everything that's held within their RAM and what they've let go of and things that are happening that is getting rid of those things that don't serve us, because love is the most powerful energy to experience that allows us to have a future to be able to enjoy, and that's particularly true for our children. It's always for the children, so they have a better future than the one that we had, right? That's why we're here. Gather all our children. Take care. I love you all.